it's Chelsea, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another weekly reading vlog. You heard me correctly. We are temporarily reinstating the weekly reading vlog. It's Tuesday, my dudes. Yesterday started the work week with 0 audiobooks. I love audiobooks. I'm an audiobook queen. So I always have audiobooks on deck. I am very blessed to have a job where I'm essentially paid to listen to audiobooks all day, every day, 45 hours a week. I started this week off with none, 0, nada. So I put a little request out on Instagram asking what your favorite audiobooks were. I did mention that if I received enough of them, I could maybe theme a reading vlog around it. So that's what this is. I am going to listen to your favorite audiobooks. So I got 5 titles. Technically 6, but one of them my library only had as an ebook. So while I did also check that one out, it won't be included in this video. I know nothing about these books. Like these titles, I had never heard of these titles. I don't even, I've never seen any of these covers. Like these are all brand new to me books. Like it was kind of a magical moment, I'm not gonna lie. So today, Tuesday, was the first official day of that project. It's not going well. I started with The Returned. I picked it. It was the first one on the list. Like there's no rhyme or reason for any of this. I am really just going with the flow. So again, I'm going into this totally blind. I've got nothing but the title and the cover at this point. As the story was beginning, I realized that it was an Indigenous story. And those typically really work for me. So I was like, oh my God, this is fucking great. Am I going to read a new favorite book right now? I DNF'd 2.5 hours in. And what makes it so funny to me because of this specific project that we're doing together is I think I hate this book because of the audiobook. Right off the bat, we get a narrator that I'm not on board with. And I'm just like, it's okay. We'll switch perspective soon and we'll try again. I think I shifted perspectives 2 or 3 times. I disliked every single one of these audiobook narrators. Every single one. All of them just have very monotone voices and they talk like this and I feel like I'm at a lecture and I want to put a pen in my ears. It was that kind of vibe. But I also thought it was so interesting that all of them sounded that way. So the whole time I'm waiting for these people to just stop talking. But then we shift perspectives and I get the same exact thing in a different sounding voice. But it's at the end of the day, it's all the same. So it was just the strangest fucking thing. And it didn't help that I don't find the writing particularly compelling either. So I realized 2.5 hours into this audiobook, I want to say I was about just over the 30% mark of the book as a whole. That I had no recollection of anything. I couldn't give you a single character name. I couldn't tell you anything in the plot. I couldn't tell you where we were. I got nothing. The only thing that's still sticking in the brain is that there was a boy who was shot by a policeman at a mall and essentially got away with it. But I don't know the specifics of said situation. And I think we're following members of his family after the fact, dealing with that. 2.5 hours in, that is the extent of my knowledge on this book. Intermission. Beebs needed my help. I was not going to make myself push through this book because just nothing was sticking. It wasn't going to happen. And I also didn't want to immediately jump into the next book because I really wanted to try and retain what little thoughts and opinions I had on this because I'm still very excited about this project. I think it could be really fun. We're not giving up yet. We're just off to a really rocky start. So I spent the rest of the day listening to the Books Unbound podcast. If you've been following me on Instagram, I've fallen into a hole. If you speak to me in any regard, chances are you have heard me gush about my love for Ariel Bissett. She is one of my favorite people on the internet. Soup! Do you also love Bissett? I knew that she had this podcast, and it's been ongoing for like several years at this point, and never once have I listened to it. So I started it yesterday, and my whole life has changed. And I'm living my best fucking life. So even though like this video is off to a rocky start, like we are starting the video with the DNF, which honestly is not ideal. But at the same time, I got to spend 6 hours with Ariel and Raylene, and like I'm not mad at it. Don't expect any fantastic B-roll in this vlog that don't pertain to the project itself, because again, the weekly vlogs and I, like, we don't get along that well. But we're gonna push through for this project because I only listen to audiobooks while I'm at work. Please stick around. I hope you enjoy. And here's hoping I don't DNF any more of these books. Good morning, my friends, and happy Wednesday. I'm exhausted. So I stayed up until midnight last night for essentially no reason at all. I just didn't realize what time it was. And I looked at the clock and it was past 11:30. And I was like, well, damn. And I get up at 5 every day. So I'm a little worse for wear this morning. But I did finish a book last night. But I wasn't sure if I was going to update y'all on my reading outside of this little project we've got going, but I'm just gonna go for it. We're just gonna do it because honestly, like, when else am I gonna talk about it in a video? So this is just gonna be one big hodgepodge of nonsense, but that seems to be my brand. I finished What Feasts at Night. This is a sequel to What Moves the Dead. I read that when it was released, and I remember really enjoying it. T. Kingfisher has become one of my favorites to pick up. I love her humor, and that does shine through in this book for sure. The humor is there, which I really appreciated. But my favorite part about her writing is that she mixes the humor with the disgust. I love that. I feel like it's done so well in the hollow places. Like, that's been my favorite one of hers so far. So I was really excited to pick up this sequel, even though I didn't feel like it was necessary. I feel like What Moves the Dead stands perfectly fine on its own, and I didn't care for more stories of these characters, but I didn't mind once I found out that was going to be a thing. So this wasn't necessarily an anticipated release for me, but I was definitely intrigued and I knew I wanted to pick it up. It's stuff like this that makes me so grateful for the library. Okay, because this is a novella. I think it's about 150 pages. And books these days are like the most expensive that they've ever been. This novella, I think, costs $18 right now because it is a new release. It is a new hardcover release. $20 for 150 pages. I'm really glad I got this from the library because I gave it only 3 stars. But I feel like if I would have gone out and purchased it and been out $20 and this story is what I got in exchange, honestly, I could have dropped it to a 2. I'm not even going to lie. So we're following our same cast of characters from book 1. They're traveling from place to place. They end up going to the main character's like hunting lodge. And the caretaker there has passed on. So it's very sudden. It's very weird. No one in town wants to talk about what happened. So they decide to stick around a bit and just see what's what. There's strange things going on. Like it's unnaturally quiet. It's got the creep factor. My issues with it is I don't know if this is another Edgar Allan Poe retelling like book 1 was. I don't know if this is a retelling of anything. So when they started talking about the big bad, like I had no connection to it. I didn't know what it was. And I feel like it wasn't very properly explained. I kind of just had to go with it. And then once they get around to defeating the big bad, I was like, okay, but what exactly just happened here? and then it ends. And it was definitely one of those stories where I got to the last page and like I literally said out loud, that was it. So it's like, whatever. Like, I'm not mad that I read it, but I feel like a lot of that stems from the fact that I got it free from the library. So like, and I just spent a couple of days reading it. Like it was not that deep, but I don't have any desire to like go out and buy a physical copy. Like I don't feel the desire to put it on my wish list. Like I don't feel like I need to own it. I feel like book one is enough. And honestly, I'm so wishy-washy on this one that it makes me want to reread book one to see if I even still like that one now. If you want to pick it up, like totally pick it up. Like I don't think it's a bad book. I just don't feel like it was necessary. I don't feel like it really brought anything new to the table. It really didn't have any of the like ooky, spooky nastiness that I like intertwined with T. Kingfisher's humor. Like no one's twirling their fingers through their own intestines. Like it was not giving in that regard, in my opinion. I'm happy to have had it finished. That was my 50th book of the year, which just trips me out that we're like nearing the end of March and I just hit the 50 book mark when in December I read 47 books in 1 month. Like I said, I was going to slow down and I feel like I definitely did. Now the real question of the day, am I going to finish an audiobook today or am I going to DNF something else and just listen to books on Bound all day? That's the real question. We had to break out the big guns today. I'm in my cozy sweater and I got Pua. This was not how I was expecting today to go. This morning on the way to work, I decided to let Beebs pick which one I start next. I didn't tell her anything about the books because, again, I didn't know anything about the books. I didn't even let her see the covers. I just read off the 4 titles to her, and she picked that way. She picked Dear Medusa. Ashlyn did say that it could be a harder read, but that it was really good. But I didn't know what that meant. That could mean anything. Just like judging by the cover, I assumed it was a YA. I shit on YA quite a bit on this channel now that I think about it. So I felt like this could have gone either way. But when I think like hard-hitting contemporary YA, I'm like, okay, yeah, but I've read 20 stories like that. If I ended up DNFing it, like that would have been fine. If I read it and gave it a 2, like that would have been fine. And that's not what happened. We are following our main character for a year during her junior year of high school. And she's been sexually assaulted by a teacher. If you are like triggered by that in any way, I just want y'all to know that none of it is on page. Like in any way, like it's not gone into detail in any way. You just know that the door to that classroom closes and things that shouldn't happen. We're following this 16-year-old girl who is dealing with this trauma and how her poor 16-year-old brain is trying to process everything while she's been branded a slut at school, and she recently just broke off her friendship with her best friend because she's a fucking douchebag. And you're just kind of following her journey, like her school journey and what that means for her, like just kind of being shoved out and just feeling very alone, not only at school but at home, you know. So you're getting into the relationships with her and her brother. You're getting into the relationships between her and her mother. You're getting into the relationships of what she used to have with this girl she used to be best friends with. She starts meeting some new people and she gets introduced to this new friend group, and she meets a girl, you know, that becomes kind of a romantic thing. You know, so there's a lot happening. It's very character driven. This book fucked me up. Like, I didn't cry while reading it, but I got close. a lot of times. And it's one of those situations where it's like, I saw so much of myself in this book, but the whole time I was reading it, I was like, God, this book would have meant so much more to me when I was 16. Like, the things that happened to Alicia are not the same things that happened to me. But so many of, like, the conversations and the relationships, like, that was me. And it's not all sad either, you know, like, she ends up, you know, creating a stronger relationship with her mom, which was really beautiful to see. And, you know, there's this scene with her brother that was good to see. And it also really focuses on, like, female friendships and how important those are. And that was so beautiful to read. I love that so much. Like, I specifically have Pua because the new girl that she's made friends with is having a birthday party. And it's like a slumber party. And they watch Disney movies and they pick Moana.
I just hear you crying. I just want to give you a hug.
You can. Okay. I love you. I love you. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I love you. Nobody's gonna hurt you anymore. Mm-hmm. I love you. It was like such a small thing that they watch Moana, but like, I am a Moana stan, and I literally just watched that movie with Beebs over the weekend. I watched that movie like 3 or 4 days ago. So I was just like, what are the odds that they picked Moana? And because our main character is bisexual, and she meets this new girl, and it just made me want to hug Beebs. Because it's like she meets this girl and they become friends, but you know that, like, it's gonna end up being more than that. And it's like, this girl looks at her and, like, she knows that she's broken, but she likes her anyway. It was just really good. But I don't know what I'm gonna rate it, because I feel like if I took all of my personal connection out of it, like, it's still a good book, but I feel like I probably would only give it like a high 3. But it's like, because I've had such a visceral reaction to it, it's like, is it a 4? Is it a 5? Like, am I gonna rate it at all? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. But this isn't how I was expecting this video to go. Like, I didn't expect today to go this way. I didn't expect any of these books to, like, get to me like they did. But, like, that's great. And it's also, like, I get asked a lot, like, why I continue to pick things up that I generally dislike. And this is why. Because, like, if you go back even just to my Race to 400, like, I read a lot of YA books in that video. And I shit on a lot of those YA. Like, there's a lot of bad YA. And it's not just me being in my 30s reading in YA. Like, it's just, so many of them are poorly written. And I don't hold back in my reviews of them. Like, there's a lot of shitty YA out there. But I will continue to pick up YA books because there's ones like this out there. And, like, they don't all have to be, like, this hard-hitting. They don't have to be this deep. They can just be, like, fun stories. But this is why I continually pick up stuff where, like, I don't necessarily have a good track record with it, or, like, either with, like, the genre or the age bracket or even the author. I'll keep picking stuff up from authors I dislike because you never know. And I feel, especially for me, like, I'm constantly being surprised by things that I read. And, like, this is honestly my favorite feeling. where it's like you pick up something totally off the cuff where you may not necessarily have picked it up on your own, and it just like completely blows you away. So I didn't read anything else after that one, mostly because I wanted to keep the thoughts fresh in my head, because I knew I couldn't do any vlog updates while I was at work. So I didn't want to cheapen that, because I really wanted to come on here and talk to y'all about it. So I listened to Books Unbound the rest of the day, and I had a really great afternoon. I'm so obsessed with that podcast right now, and it's great. Like it's great. Just all of it was great. Don't let the tears fool you. It was great. So we get to do it all again tomorrow.
Living room routine.
Yeah.
Come on, Eileen.
Please ignore this hair. I've had a headache all day, and I just can't have it up anymore. To catch y'all up, so last night I just continued to read on my Kindle. I've been reading Glitterland by Alexis Hall. This is the author who wrote Boyfriend Material, which is one of my all-time favorite books. So I've been continuing to pick up their shit, and I've yet to find anything that's half as good as Boyfriend Material. But I'm gonna keep trying. So I'm about 50% of the way through it now. And like, I literally have nothing to say, which I guess like sums it all up. Like it's a romance, it's gay, but I don't know, like I don't hate it, and I don't mind the time that I'm spending with it, but like, I don't know, I feel like I'm gonna finish it and just never think about it again. And I feel like if I don't continue to pick it up, I'll never finish it, and I will also never think of it again. So for today's book, I technically have 3 titles left, but I think I'm only going to do 2 more. So I'm going to read the last one tomorrow. So I put up a poll on my Instagram this morning, and I gave y'all the option of Sasquatch and goblins, because apparently those are like key points in the books that are left. And y'all voted goblins. So I read The Black Tongue Thief. This is the first book in a fantasy series. I know that there's at least 2 books. I don't know if there's more. I didn't do my research. It's a fantasy. It's blurbed by Robin Hobb. If y'all remember, last year I tried to enter my epic high fantasy era and failed. Like I read all of Game of Thrones, and that was like mostly a good time. I spent quite a bit of time in Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, and I did read a Robin Hobb, and like nothing is blowing me away. Like I don't know if it's just not a genre for me, or if I'm just not finding the right books. So I also gave The Black Tongue Thief 3 stars. Like it was fine, but in a way where like I think it's me and not so much the book. That being said, I do think that it is a great bridge book for people who want to get into like epic and higher fantasy, but are scared. I feel like this is a great bridge book to get you there. Like I feel like it's very fast paced. I feel like it makes sense. It's magic and everything is, I don't want to say simple, but it's easy to comprehend. Like there's not all this shit with like weird ass names, and there's info dumps, but they're not that intricate. Like I feel like it's very base level. It is a funny book too. Like I don't know about y'all, but I really like humor in my books, and this had that. I finished this around lunchtime, and I like barely remember it now. And that is totally a me thing. I didn't care. I seem to hit a plateau when I pick up these kinds of fantasy books where I start them and I'm really interested and I'm invested and I care. And then we just like reach a certain point and I just like flatline, and I don't care anymore. And I can't even blame it on the length, because this only took me like 6 hours to get through. It's not like a ridiculously long audiobook. I was listening on like 2 times speed. But even still, it's like an 11-hour audiobook. Like, it wasn't outrageous for a fantasy novel, I don't think. I didn't care. And like, I couldn't tell you any plot points. It's like you're introduced to these two characters and they meet up somehow and their path is then diverted into this grand adventure and they're just kind of like going places and doing things. And that just like, to me, that is just like your standard run-of-the-mill fantasy plot line. But again, like, I don't have much experience with it. I just don't think it's for me. I will say though, that this being recommended as a favorite audiobook, I totally get it. The audiobook is a 10 out of fucking 10. 10 out of 10. I don't know who narrates it, but all other audiobook narrators need to take note, because I bet you I would rate a hell of a lot less audiobooks 2 stars if they were all narrated like this dude narrates this book. He narrates this book like this book is his favorite fucking book that he's ever read, and he wants everyone to hear it, and he wants to tell it like it, like you can hear it. And that like really added to the experience. Like, I had a really good time listening to the audiobook. I just really didn't care about anything else. But I will say, fun fact, these chapters have titles. There are chapter titles, which just felt like such a nostalgic moment for me, because that's just not something you see anymore. I don't know how old this book is, but like, I loved that aspect. It was so fun that every chapter I'm like, oh, what's this one going to be called? Like, it's definitely a me thing and not a book thing. Like, I don't think I'm going to continue on with the series. And that's the update. There were no tears. There were no tears today. Though I did watch back the footage from yesterday just to see if anything I said was even coherent, and just like, even then it made me cry. And also, like, who knows, like, maybe I am in a slump now from that book and it made this one not as good. Hello. So it is technically Saturday morning. We have reached the end of this vlog. I just didn't update it last night because it was dark. So I was like, I'll just wait until morning and have some daylight coming in. The last book of this video was De-Evolution by Max Brooks. All I knew about this was it's a Sasquatch story. And I didn't know how I felt about that going in. But essentially, we're following this woman, and she lives like out in the middle of nowhere, like close enough to Seattle, but not really. And they live in like this special housing development that was created to kind of like just be better for the earth. It's almost kind of like a test project, where it's like very heavy on like recycling and being eco-friendly and like kind of being off-grid, but not really. And then a volcano erupts, right? So they're like blocked off from everybody because like the bridges are out, the roads are out. At the end of the day, like no one really cares about them. No one knows that they're out there. No one is looking for them. So it becomes like this survival story. Like, you know, they have to figure out how they're going to get food. They need to figure out what they're going to do about electricity, like all of these things. So it turns into this whole like survival novel, right? Which like really got me anxious because I don't know how to grow food. I don't have any skills. So like I feel like it was very anxious in like a good way for that aspect of the story. And I also found it incredibly interesting because this book was published in like June of 2020. So we were like in the midst of the pandemic at that time, and I'm like really wanting to look into some reviews and see what people who were reading it at that time thought about it. Because, you know, like you're blocked off from humanity, like you really, really don't know what the future holds, and like shit was getting scary. So the story's progressing in that way, and I'm like, okay, cool, like I'm down with this. Like I don't know what Sasquatch has to do with any of this, but like I'm having a really good time. It was very much giving me like found footage movie meets the book The Hot Zone. No one's probably gonna get that but me. But I love those things, and I felt nostalgic for those things while reading. So they're going about their business, they're trying to do the thing, and then our main character sees something in the woods. And like other people are starting to see things in the woods. And it's Sasquatches, it's family of Sasquatches, and like it sounds so cheesy when I try and describe it, but it does not read that way. Like I was actually kind of freaked out by these things, and I was also like equally fascinated because there's like science-y parts in the story, like kind of in between chapters that I just found fascinating. So basically it's a showdown between Sasquatch and human, and like it was pretty intense, and it gets pretty gory, and I was just like, oh my god, terrifying. Like I liked it. I really liked it. I liked it so much that I went out and I got a physical copy after work. So obviously this was a 5 out of 5 stars. I wouldn't be surprised if this is another like niche book where it has like a 3 point something average rating and doesn't do very well on Goodreads, just because I liked it so much. I really enjoyed this, and I do think that the audiobook is the way to go because the story is told in journal entries mostly. So it translates really well to an audiobook. Like it felt like I was watching a movie. I lost all track of time listening to this at work. I blinked and it was lunchtime. I blinked again and like it was over. It was such a good time. I'm actually really glad that my Barnes had a copy. They had one copy because again, this is not like a new release. This has been out for like 4 years now. But they had it and I was very happy. In other news, they did not have Dear Medusa. No one in the city has it. I'm going to have to get it off of Amazon. But just know I'm on the hunt for that one as well. So we had a very successful reading week. I was not expecting going into this challenge leaving with 2 5-star favorites. I think I've gotten 1 or 2 5 stars on my own so far this year from things that haven't been rereads. So having 2 in 1 week and 2 like that came from recommendations, I'm blown away. And I'm so happy and I'm so grateful that I did this project. If you're interested in other like themed vlogs like this, please let me know. I will most likely have to film them in weekly vlog format, which is more chatty and less vloggy. So just let me know if that's something that you're interested in. You can give me suggestions for ideas in the comments if you'd like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I am trying to hit 200 this year, so let's do the thing. And I will see you soon in a new one. Bye.